the seed of patience. In the heart of the city, amidst the noise and rush of daily life, lived a young man named Adam. Like many, Adam was driven by a deep desire to succeed, to make his mark on the world. He had big dreams, dreams of building something that would last, something that would speak to his potential. But there was one thing Adam struggled with: patience. Adam was not alone in his struggle. In the fast-paced world of instant gratification, where everything from food to information was available at the touch of a button, patience had become a rare virtue. The idea of waiting, of allowing time to do its work, seemed almost alien. Adam wanted results, and he wanted them now. One day, Adam visited an old friend, Mr. Bennett, a retired entrepreneur who had built a successful business from the ground up. Mr. Bennett lived in a quiet neighborhood, far removed from the chaos of the city. His home was surrounded by a beautiful garden, full of vibrant flowers and towering trees. As they walked through the garden, Adam couldn't help but admire the beauty and tranquility of the place. "How did you do it?" Adam asked, as they sat on a bench under the shade of an old oak tree. "How did you build such a successful life?" "I'm working hard, but it feels like I'm getting nowhere." Mr. Bennett smiled, his eyes twinkling with the wisdom of years. "Let me tell you a story," he said. "It's the story of this garden." Years ago, when Mr. Bennett first bought the property, it was nothing but a barren piece of land. The soil was dry and rocky, and the garden that now flourished was a distant dream. But Mr. Bennett had a vision. He saw beyond the barren land, imagining a garden that would one day bloom with life. "It wasn't easy," Mr. Bennett continued. "I spent years working on this garden. At first, nothing seemed to grow. I planted seeds, watered them, and waited. But days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and still, nothing. There were times when I wanted to give up, to believe that maybe the soil was too poor, or the seeds were bad. But I kept going." Adam listened intently as Mr. Bennett described the countless hours he spent nurturing the soil, learning about the plants, and adjusting his methods. Slowly, very slowly, the first signs of life began to appear. A sprout here, a bud there. And then, almost suddenly, the garden began to flourish. "It didn't happen overnight," Mr. Bennett said, "but the key was patience. I believed in the process, even when I couldn't see the results. The seeds were doing their work beneath the surface, growing roots, preparing to break through the soil. All I had to do was trust in the process and keep nurturing them." Adam sat in silence, absorbing the lesson. He realized that his approach to life had been like someone who plants a seed and expects a tree the next day. He had been impatient, looking for quick results without allowing time for the roots to grow. "That's the thing about patience," Mr. Bennett added. "It's not about waiting without doing anything. It's about doing the right things and trusting that they will pay off in time. You have to believe in the power of small, consistent actions." As they continued their walk through the garden, Adam began to see it not just as a beautiful space, but as a metaphor for life. The towering trees and blooming flowers were the result of years of careful, patient work. They were the culmination of countless small efforts, each one building on the last. Mr. Bennett paused by a young tree, its leaves vibrant and green. "This tree," he said, "started as a seed no bigger than your thumbnail. But now, look at it. It provides shade, shelter, and beauty. All because of patience." That evening, as Adam returned to his bustling city life, the lesson stayed with him. He began to see his dreams not as distant, unreachable goals, but as seeds that needed time to grow. He understood that his role was to nurture those seeds with consistent effort, to trust in the process, and to be patient. And so, Adam began his journey of patience. He focused on small, daily actions, believing that over time, they would accumulate and lead to the success he desired. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was determined to see it through. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, Adam began to notice subtle changes in his life. The frustration that once plagued him started to fade, replaced by a quiet confidence. He was no longer rushing, no longer desperate for quick results. Instead, he was content to take things one day at a time, knowing that the seeds he was planting would eventually bear fruit. This was the beginning of Adam's transformation, a journey that would test his patience, challenge his beliefs, and ultimately, lead him to a deeper understanding of the power of the cumulative effect. But that, as they say, is just the beginning of the story. The path of persistence. In the months that followed, Adam embraced the lesson of patience, but as with all things, it was easier said than done. The initial burst of enthusiasm he felt after his conversation with Mr. Bennett began to wane as the reality of the slow, steady process set in. There were days when doubt crept in, when the lack of immediate results made him question whether he was on the right path. The world around Adam didn't help. Everywhere he looked, there were stories of overnight success, of people who seemed to achieve greatness in the blink of an eye. Social media was flooded with images of luxury, success, and achievement, all presented as if they had been effortlessly obtained. It was hard not to compare his own journey to these seemingly instant successes, hard not to feel as though he was being left behind. But then, Adam remembered Mr. Bennett's words, "Patience is not about waiting without doing anything. It's about doing the right things and trusting that they will pay off in time." He realized that the stories of overnight success were often just that, stories. What wasn't shown were the years of hard work, the countless failures, and the persistence that went into achieving those successes. Determined to stay on his path, Adam began to focus on persistence. He knew that patience alone wasn't enough, it had to be coupled with relentless effort. He threw himself into his work with renewed energy, setting small, manageable goals that would keep him moving forward. He learned to celebrate the small wins, recognizing that each one was a step closer to his ultimate goal. But persistence, like patience, is a test of character. As time went on, the challenges grew more difficult. There were moments when it felt like nothing was working, when every effort seemed to be met with resistance. The late nights, the sacrifices, the endless grind, it all began to take its toll. It was during one of these low points that Adam met Grace, a young woman who had recently started working at the same company. Grace was different from anyone Adam had ever met. She had a quiet determination about her, a steady resolve that seemed unshakable. Despite facing her own set of challenges, she never seemed to waver in her commitment to her goals. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, Adam and Grace found themselves alone in the office. As they packed up their things, Adam couldn't help but ask, "How do you do it? How do you stay so focused, even when things get tough?" Grace smiled, a knowing look in her eyes. "I've learned to trust in the process," she said. "It's like building a wall, brick by brick. Each day, I add another brick, and slowly, the wall starts to take shape. It's not about how quickly the wall goes up, it's about making sure each brick is placed carefully, so the wall is strong and stable." Adam nodded, understanding the metaphor. "But what about when things don't go as planned? When it feels like no matter how many bricks you place, the wall just isn't getting any higher?" Grace paused, considering her words. "There's a story my grandfather used to tell me," she said. "He was a carpenter, and he built houses from the ground up. He used to say that the most important part of any building isn't what you see above ground, but what's below it, the foundation. Without a strong foundation, the walls will crumble, no matter how well they're built." She looked at Adam, her expression serious. "That's what we're doing here, building the foundation. It may feel like you're not making progress, but every brick you place is strengthening that foundation. And one day, you'll look up and realize that the wall has been built, that all those small efforts have added up to something incredible." Adam was struck by the simplicity and truth of Grace's words. He realized that his frustration stemmed not from the process itself, but from his impatience to see the final result. He had been so focused on the end goal that he had forgotten to appreciate the journey, to see the value in each small step. With this new perspective, Adam began to approach his work with a renewed sense of purpose. He embraced the idea of building a strong foundation, understanding that every effort, no matter how small, was contributing to something greater. He stopped worrying about how long it would take to reach his goals, and instead focused on making each day count. As time went on, Adam began to see the fruits of his persistence. Opportunities started to arise, not because of any sudden stroke of luck, but because of the groundwork he had laid over months and years. The connections he had made, the skills he had developed, the knowledge he had gained, all of it began to come together, creating a momentum that carried him forward. But more importantly, Adam realized that the journey itself was just as valuable as the destination. The challenges he had faced, the setbacks he had overcome, had shaped him into someone stronger, more resilient, and more determined. He had learned the true meaning of patience and persistence, and he knew that these qualities would serve him well, no matter what challenges lay ahead. And so, with a deep sense of satisfaction, Adam continued on his path, confident in the knowledge that he was building something that would last, a life grounded in patience, persistence, and the power of the cumulative effect. The test of time. As the months turned into years, Adam's life began to change in ways he hadn't anticipated. The persistent, patient effort he had invested in his work and personal development started to bear fruit. He found himself rising through the ranks at his company, gaining respect from his peers, and becoming known for his dedication and resilience. Yet, as his career flourished, a new challenge emerged, one that would test his commitment to the principles of patience and persistence. With success came greater responsibilities and higher expectations. The more Adam achieved, the more pressure he felt to maintain and exceed his previous accomplishments. It was as if every milestone he reached only set the bar higher for the next. The demands on his time and energy increased, and he began to feel the weight of it all. One day, as Adam was preparing for an important presentation that could significantly impact his career, he received a call that shook him to his core. His father, who had been battling a chronic illness for years, had taken a turn for the worse. Adam was faced with an impossible choice: stay and deliver the presentation that could make or break his career, or go to his father's side, where he might not have another chance to say goodbye. Torn between duty and family, Adam turned to the lessons he had learned over the years. He remembered the importance of building a strong foundation, of prioritizing what truly mattered. In that moment, he knew that no career success could replace the time he had left with his father. He made the decision to be with his family, leaving his career ambitions in limbo. As Adam spent time with his father, he was reminded of the fragility of life and the importance of the things that truly matter: love, family, and the memories we create with those we care about. His father, though weak, spoke to Adam with clarity and wisdom. "Adam," his father said one evening, "life isn't just about the big moments, the achievements, or the successes. It's about the time we spend with the people we love, the quiet moments, and the simple joys. Don't let the pursuit of success rob you of what's most important." These words struck a deep chord within Adam. He realized that in his pursuit of success, he had been neglecting the things that mattered most. He had been so focused on the destination that he had lost sight of the journey. The patience and persistence he had cultivated were not just about career growth, they were about building a life that was rich and meaningful. After his father's passing, Adam returned to work with a new perspective. He was no longer driven by the need to prove himself or to achieve success at any cost. Instead, he focused on creating balance in his life, ensuring that his career ambitions were aligned with his personal values. He began to prioritize time with family and friends, understanding that true success was measured not just by professional accomplishments, but by the quality of his relationships and the fulfillment he found in everyday life. This shift in mindset had a profound impact on Adam's life. He became more centered, more at peace with himself. The stress and pressure that had once weighed him down began to lift, replaced by a sense of calm and confidence. He was no longer in a rush to achieve his goals, understanding that everything would happen in its own time. The lesson Adam learned during this difficult period was clear: patience and persistence are not just about working hard and waiting for results, they are about living life with intention, staying true to your values, and trusting that everything will fall into place when the time is right. As Adam continued to grow, both personally and professionally, he became a mentor to others who were struggling with the same challenges he had faced. He shared his experiences, emphasizing the importance of patience, persistence, and the power of the cumulative effect. He taught them that success is not a sprint, but a marathon, a long, steady journey that requires endurance, resilience, and above all, faith in the process. The power of the cumulative effect. Years passed, and Adam's life evolved in ways he could never have imagined. The seeds of patience and persistence he had planted so long ago had grown into a life that was both successful and fulfilling. But the most profound realization came when he began to understand the true power of the cumulative effect, the idea that small, consistent actions over time can lead to extraordinary results. It was a concept Adam had heard about many times, but only now did he fully grasp its significance. Looking back, he saw how each small decision, each seemingly insignificant action, had contributed to the life he was living now. The long hours, the sacrifices, the moments of doubt, each one had played a role in shaping his future. One evening, while reflecting on his journey, Adam received a message from a former colleague, someone he had mentored years earlier. The message was simple but heartfelt: "Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. The things you taught me about patience and persistence changed my life." This message struck Adam deeply. He realized that the impact of his efforts extended far beyond his own life. The lessons he had learned and shared were now rippling out into the world, touching the lives of others in ways he hadn't anticipated. It was the cumulative effect in action, not just in his own achievements, but in the influence he had on those around him. Inspired by this realization, Adam decided to give back to the community that had supported him throughout his journey. He began volunteering at local schools, speaking to students about the importance of patience, persistence, and believing in the process. He shared his story, not as a tale of instant success, but as a testament to the power of consistent effort over time. One day, after giving a talk at a local high school, Adam was approached by a young student named Emily. She was shy, hesitant to speak, but there was a determination in her eyes that reminded Adam of himself when he was younger. "Mr. Adam," Emily began, "I've always struggled with patience. I want things to happen quickly, and when they don't, I get frustrated and want to give up. But after hearing your story, I realized that maybe I've been going about it the wrong way. Maybe I need to be more patient with myself and trust that things will work out if I keep trying." Adam smiled, seeing the spark of understanding in Emily's eyes. "You're absolutely right, Emily," he said. "It's not about getting everything right immediately. It's about staying committed, even when it's hard. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a step forward. And one day, you'll look back and see how far you've come." Emily's face lit up with hope, and Adam knew that his words had made a difference. As she walked away, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that the lessons he had learned were now helping others on their own journeys. In that moment, Adam realized that the true power of the cumulative effect wasn't just in the success it brought to his own life, but in the impact it had on others. The seeds of patience and persistence he had planted so long ago were now bearing fruit, not just for him, but for everyone whose life he touched. The cumulative effect, Adam understood, was not just about achieving personal goals. It was about creating a ripple effect of positive change in the world. Every small action, every word of encouragement, every act of kindness, each one had the power to make a difference, to inspire others to keep going, to believe in the process, and to trust that their efforts would pay off in time. The legacy of patience. As Adam grew older, he found himself reflecting more and more on the journey that had brought him to where he was. The lessons of patience, persistence, and the cumulative effect had shaped his life in ways he could never have predicted. But perhaps the most important lesson of all was one he had only recently come to understand: the importance of leaving a legacy. By now, Adam had achieved more than he had ever dreamed possible. His career was flourishing, his personal life was rich and fulfilling, and he had become a respected figure in his community. But as he looked around at all he had built, he realized that his greatest accomplishment was not the success he had achieved, but the impact he had made on the lives of others. He began to see his legacy not as the tangible things he had created, but as the intangible influence he had left behind. The people he had mentored, the lives he had touched, the lessons he had shared, these were the things that would endure long after he was gone. Adam decided to write a book, not about his career or his personal achievements, but about the lessons he had learned along the way. He wanted to share the wisdom he had gained, to help others understand the importance of patience, persistence, and the cumulative effect in their own lives. He wrote about the struggles and challenges he had faced, the doubts and fears he had overcome, and the moments of triumph that had made it all worthwhile. The book was a labor of love, and as Adam wrote, he found himself reliving the experiences that had shaped him. He wrote about his early days, when he was impatient and driven by a need for quick success. He wrote about the lessons he had learned from Mr. Bennett, Grace, and his father, lessons that had taught him the true meaning of patience and persistence. He wrote about the impact of the cumulative effect, and how small, consistent actions had led to the life he was now living. When the book was finally published, it quickly became a bestseller. People from all walks of life were drawn to Adam's story, finding inspiration in his journey and applying the lessons he had learned to their own lives. The book sparked a movement, encouraging people to embrace patience, to trust in the process, and to believe in the power of the cumulative effect. Adam was humbled by the response, but he knew that the real success was not in the book's sales or its popularity. The real success was in the lives it was changing, in the people it was inspiring to keep going, to stay patient, and to believe in themselves. As he continued to speak, write, and mentor, Adam felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had found his true purpose, not just in achieving success, but in helping others do the same. His legacy, he realized, was not in what he had built for himself, but in the impact he had made on the world around him. In the final years of his life, Adam looked back with gratitude on the journey he had taken. He saw the cumulative effect at work in every aspect of his life, from the smallest decisions to the most significant milestones. He knew that every moment of patience, every act of persistence, had led him to where he was now. And as he watched the next generation take up the mantle, inspired by his story and determined to create their own legacies, Adam felt a deep sense of peace. He had lived a life of patience, persistence, and purpose, and in doing so, he had left a legacy that would endure long after he was gone. The power of the cumulative effect, Adam realized, was not just in the life he had built for himself, but in the lives he had touched, the lessons he had shared, and the legacy he had left behind. And in that legacy, he found the true meaning of success, a life lived with patience, persistence, and purpose, creating a ripple effect of positive change that would continue to grow long after he was gone.